Hi, boys and girls. It's Miss Bissell. We are on page 57 of our Volume 1 textbook. Today, we're going to be actually adding decimals in isolation. Our last lesson, we looked at models briefly and talked about adding and subtracting decimals, and we went straight on and used the strategy of adding and subtracting them like whole numbers, where we lined up the place values by using the decimals to guide us. We're going to be doing more of that, but we're focusing on the addition. So our essential question today is on page 58, and it says, how can you add decimals? Again, we're just getting more practice with what we did in our lesson 2-3. So just talking about adding decimals, we can use the example with the solve and share. We have a swim team that participated in a relay race. The swimmers' times for each leg of the race were recorded in a table. What was the combined time for Caleb and Bradley's leg of the relay race? So we have Caleb here, 21 and 39 hundredths of a second. Just going to remind you, when we read decimals, we just read it like a regular whole number. We say the word and then we read the decimal part like a regular whole number, but we say the name of the place value position that the decimal ends in. So this ends in hundredths. So 21 and 39 hundredths. Bradley's leg of the race was 21 and 59 hundredths. So our fifth grade helper tells us that you can find the sum of 21 and 39 hundredths plus 21 and 59 hundredths, but estimate first. Step 1, just like with whole numbers, let me back up a little bit here. Sorry, having some technical difficulty here. Just like with whole numbers, we're going to add the add-ins by place value. Very important right here. The decimal points will also line up. All right. So when you have those decimal points aligned, you naturally add up the ones, the tens, and your whole numbers as they get larger, moving to the left. And you would naturally align your decimal place values, your tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. Step 2, use what you know about partial sums to add the hundredths, tenths, ones, and tens. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add them up just like they are whole numbers. I don't know why they're skipping down here. I'm going to show you a better way, a little bit more organized. But the little boy also reminds us that adding decimals is just like adding whole numbers. Now, we're going to skip over the information about number lines. So for right now, we're going to skip this, another example, because in the next 2 or 3 lessons, we're going to come back and we're going to look at these on decimal grids, and we're going to look at these on number lines. And what I mean by looking at these, we're going to be looking at adding and subtracting decimals using number lines and decimal grids. But let's just get understanding it as we relate it to adding and subtracting whole numbers first. All right, so we're going to jump right in. I need you to have a sheet of graph paper. So if you do not have that, run and get it, and a pencil. I would like to see you head your paper. You can just do L for lesson, and we're going to write down lesson 2-4. And let's just write the title, Adding Decimals. Make sure you put your number, PWH number. I'm going to be P23, your name, and the date. Let's see, 11/23/20. Okay, so once you've done that, it is time to start working. We're going to put that we are on page 53, and we're going to do example number 2. Now, we want to do our work on graph paper so we can use the boxes to keep our work aligned. And also, there's just not enough room in the book. So we have in the book 82 hundredths plus 4 and 21 hundredths written in a number sentence. So let's take the first add-in, 0.82. And then the next one is 4 and 21 hundredths. So just double check that your decimal points line up. That makes your whole numbers line up. Makes your tenths and your hundredths line up. And then we're going to add. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring down my decimal point. Now, our directions said that we should estimate first. So let's do that front digit rounding. We have a 0 as our rounding digit. The 8/10 is a 5 or more. So I'm going to raise the score to 1. 4 and 21/100ths. The 4 is the rounding digit. The 2 to the right is a 4 or below. So we're going to leave it alone. And our quick estimate is 5. Okay, so let's see what happens. When we add our hundredths, 2 plus 1 is 3. We add our tenths, 8 plus 2 is 10. Don't forget we regroup. 10 of those tenths become one whole, and we add it to the 4, and we get the sum 5 3/100ths. Very close to our estimate. So I would say this is a reasonable answer. I can always check it with a calculator, but if I don't have that ability to check it with a calculator for accuracy, I can at least know that it is pretty close to my estimate, so it makes sense. All right, let's look at number 3. Be sure to space out, and also make sure that you're writing small enough so you have one digit in each box. I write large naturally, but when I'm doing math, writing in these boxes slows me down, and I'm less likely to make careless mistakes. I think that would work for you as well. Our first add-in is 9 1/10. We're going to add to it 7 and 21/100ths. So if I put my decimal here and I put my 7 in the whole number place and the 2/10ths and the 1/100ths, this gives us time to talk about the fact that we are not adding like place values, meaning one of my add-ins goes to the tenths, the other goes to hundredths. So what we're going to do is we're going to write equivalent decimals. So don't forget, 9 1/10 is the same as 9 10/100ths, okay? So we've not changed the value. This is going to be very important, probably more so when we subtract, but let's get in the habit of evening out those place value positions by making those equivalent decimals. Go ahead and bring down my decimal point. When I estimate 9 1/10, the 1 in the tenths place tells me that the 9 stays 9 just because it's a 4 or below. The same thing here. The 2 in the tenths place tells me the 7 stays 7 because it is less than 4. So these right here, 9 plus 7 gives me a quick estimate of 16. When I add my hundredths together, I get 1/100th. When I add my tenths, I get 3/10. 9 plus 7 is 16. So my sum is 16 and 31/100ths. That is reasonable. It is very close to my estimate. And again, the estimate lets us check to make sure that our answer makes sense. All right, let's do a couple more. Number 4, we're going to add 26/100ths. And to it, we're going to add 8 3/10. This is going to be a whole lot like number 3. We don't have the same number of decimal places behind the decimal points. So I'm going to annex that 0. And what I'm doing is I'm making 8 3/10, 8 30/100ths. I'm using its equivalent decimal value. Doesn't change anything. Just allows me to have a digit to add to 6. 6 plus 0 is 6. 2/10 plus 3/10 is 5/10. 0 and 8 is 8. I get 8 56/100ths. And my bad, I forgot to estimate first. So if you ever do that, at least do it at the end. 26/100ths. This is interesting. The 2/10 tells me to leave the rounding digit 0. The 3/10 tells me to leave the rounding digit 8. So my quick estimate is 8. And yes, my 8 56/100ths sum is pretty close to the estimate, so I believe it's reasonable. Number 5, we're going to do one more together, then I'm going to ask you to do a couple. So we have 4 98/100ths, and we're going to add to it 3 2/100ths. So we have the same number of decimal digits. A quick estimate out to the side. The 9 in the tenths place is a 5 or more, so we give the rounding digit, we raise the score, so we add 1 to it, make it 5. 3 2/100ths, the 0 in the tenths place tells me to leave the 3, quick estimate of 8. All right, I'm going to put my decimal point in a line, 8 and plus 2 is 10. So I have 10 hundredths. I'm going to rename 10 of those hundredths as 1/10. 1/10 plus 9/10 is 10 tenths. 10 tenths bundle nicely into one whole. 1 and 4 is 5, plus 3 more is 8. So 8.00 is going to be the answer 8. All right. We talked about this before. If you were 8 years old, you would write your age like this versus 8.00. That is 8, but that's more the correct way to write it. All right. Answer is reasonable. Actually, it's exactly right, exactly the same as our estimate. All right, so we have a couple that I want to skip down and talk about. If you want to pause me, I would like you to work 6, 7, 8, and 9. So I'll give you a second to go ahead and do that. If you want to answer 6, 7, 8, and 9, go ahead and put me on pause, and we'll come back and talk about those. 6, 7, 8, and 9. Now, I would like you to do those on graph paper. Just continue on the same page. And then we'll come back and talk about it. All right, number 6. First of all, I did these earlier and I did not estimate. So let's do a quick estimate. 1 and 3/10. I hope you rounded it to 1. 36 hundredths is close to 0. A quick estimate gives me 1. Your answer should be 1 and 39 hundredths. Number 7, quick estimate out to the side. I hope you use 7 plus 3. A quick estimate's 10. When you added 6 and 9/10 plus 2 and 8/10, you should have the sum 9 and 7/10. Number 8, when we round to the front digit, 45 and 8/100 rounds to 50. 2 and 100 stays 2, so we get a quick estimate of 52. When we add 45 and 8/100 and 2 and 100, you should get 47 and 9/100, relatively close to 52, so that answer is reasonable. When we go out to the side, 2 is already rounded to 2. 78 rounds up to 1. My estimate is 3. The actual sum when you add 2 to 78 is 2 and 78 So I want to show you something. When you add a whole number to a decimal, this could have very well have been just 2 plus 78 But since you have 2 digits behind the decimal point, that is why you're seeing the 2 zeros. So just like we talked about 8.00 being 8 above in question or in problem number 5, 2.00 can be written this way because it is equivalent to 2. Okay. Now, I'd like you to go ahead right now and work the last 3 with me. These are a little bit different. The first one is money. So let's look at number 10. So number 10, we're adding $271.90. Notice how I read that a little bit differently when it's money. I read 271 and 90 cents, okay? Not 271 and 90 hundredths. And then I add to it $34.22. All right. First thing I'm going to do is get a quick estimate. I'm going to round to the nearest front digit. Actually, you know what? It's money and I really want it to be close. I'm going to round to the nearest dollar. So is $271.90 closer to 271 or 272? It is definitely closer to 271. The 9/10 tells me to round to the nearest whole number. All right. 34 and 22 hundredths. The 2/10 tells me to leave it 34. Quick estimate. It's going to be $305. So let's see what happens over here. Decimal points are aligned. 0 and 2 gives me 2. 9 and 2 gives me 11. When you add your 1 place, you get 6. 7 plus 3 is 10. We've got to regroup into the hundreds, and we get $306.12. So that is a reasonable answer based on our estimate. Number 11 is neat. You've got 3 add-ins. So I want you to line them all up. I don't want to see you add 2, get a subtotal, and add the third decimal. You guys are old enough and math savvy enough that you should be able to add several add-ins together. So we're going to start with 7 2/10. The 3 and 96 hundredths. Here's the decimal point. So 3 and then the 9 and the 6. This is going to line up those place values. And the last add-in is 8 and 8/10. So what I notice is that when I do add, I'm going to annex or add 2 zeros, and I'm going to write equivalent decimals, 7 and 20 hundredths for 7 and 2/10, and I'm going to make 8 and 8/10, 8 and 80 hundredths. That way I have 3 decimal digits. I'm going to do a quick estimate, rounding to the front digit. You're right, 7 would stay 7, 3 and 96 hundredths would round up to 4, 8 and 80 hundredths would round up to 9. When I add these together real quick, I get 20. Let's see, 7 plus 4 is 11, plus 9, 20. All right, here we go. I'm going to bring down my decimal point. Notice how all the decimals stay in a straight line. 0, 6, and 0 stay 6. 2 plus 8 is 10, plus 9 more is 19. I'm going to regroup those 10/10 into one whole. I know 7 and 3 is 10. 1 more is 11. 11 plus 8 gives me 19. So I get 19 and 96 hundredths. I'm going to box it in. That is a reasonable answer, a reasonable sum based on my estimate of 20. And then our last problem we're going to do together on this page is number 12. We're going to look at 16 and 62 hundredths. We're going to add 4 to it. Now, 4 is a whole number, so go back and look at number 9 and look at number 5 and think about what we're going to do with this whole number so that it has 2 decimal places. And we're going to write a decimal point here, and we're going to put the 4 there, and we're going to write it just like that. And then 2 and 38 hundredths, lining up the whole number 2 and the 38 hundredths. Notice the most important thing in decimal addition and subtraction is that the decimal points stay in a straight line even through your answer. In your addition problem, the answer is called the sum. Okay, that keeps all your place values aligned. 2 hundredths plus 8 hundredths give us 10 hundredths. We're going to regroup those 10 hundredths as 1/10. 1 plus 6 is 7, plus 3 more gives us 10 hundredths. We're going to 10/10. We're going to round that 1/10. 10/10 is 1 whole. I know 6 and 4 are 10. 1 more gives us 7. 2 more gives us 9. And then we bring down the 1. All right. And 16 and 62 hundredths, 4 and 2 and 38 hundredths. Let me double check that. 8, 9, 10. Well, you know what? Let me do my estimate real quick. My estimate would be 16 and 16 hundredths would round to 20. I'm going to do front digit. 4 would stay 4. 2 and 38 hundredths would round to 2. So I get 26. That seems a little bit of a spread. Let me just double check something. 8 and 2 is 10. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 6, 10, 11, 12. Whoa. Got an issue right here. 6 plus 4 is 10, 11, 12, 13. Something doesn't seem right. I'm really off my game here. 16 and 6200. I think that's right. 2 and 8 is 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, 11, 12, 13. All right. Yes. So my estimate is off because I rounded to the front digit. Okay. So it is going to be off. It's going to be several off in that case. 24, 25, 26. All right. 13 is the whole number 13. But something's still wrong. You know what? I know exactly where my mistake is, and I just made the most fundamental of mistakes, boys and girls. It's silly. So I'm glad you watched me struggle. Yes, that estimate is a little bit off because I rounded, but it shouldn't be that much off. Look, this 6 plus 4 was 10, plus 1 more is 11, 12, 13. I was looking at this 1 in 16 and thinking that that was where I had renamed those 10 tens or those 10 ones as 110. So I don't have my number that I renamed up there. So of course it's off. So I get $23. No, not even money. I get 23 as my whole number. All right. So you guys got to watch your teacher struggle. So if you saw how I didn't give up, I kept thinking something didn't look right, and now I saw exactly what it was. So be careful, and also don't make that silly mistake I made where I saw this 1 up here and I was just seeing it as if I had already regrouped, but that was actually part of my first add-in. All right, so we can all make mistakes. Again, you can check with a calculator if you have one, but this estimate should help you get really close. All right, speaking of that, there is one question that I love on the back page. So let's talk about that before we close it up today. And that is question number 17. All right, so Juan is adding 3 and 8/10 plus 4 and 6/10. And he gets a sum of 84. Is his answer correct? Tell me how you know. And I can tell you right now, his answer is not correct. No. If I estimate this, 3 and 8/10 would estimate or round to 4. 4 and 6/10 would round to 5. When I add 4 and 5, I get an estimate of 9. 9 is not in the ballpark. It's nowhere near 84 hundredths. So the answer is no. And I'm just going to justify it. I'm going to say that 84 is not close to my estimate of 9. Now, the correct sum, let's add it up. 3 and 8/10, 4 and 6/10, keeping those decimals aligned. 8/10 and 6/10 gives us 14/10. We're going to rename 10 of those tenths as one whole, and we get 8 and 4/10. So we can see exactly what Juan did wrong. He left out his decimal point if he had the whole answer 84. So the correct answer, or the correct sum, is 8 and 4/10. Juan left out that decimal point. All right, boys and girls, you have your practice buddy to work on. If you need to look back over anything in the video, go ahead and do that. But I think that you are good to go and able to add the decimals. I'm just going to remind you, we're going to put this piece of paper, we're going to turn it sideways, fold it over so it looks about like this. And we're going to be stapling it in our book. If you do not have a stapler at home, we'll take care of that when you come to school. Just make sure you put it in the correct page of your book so we can staple that in. And again, having that page number on it definitely helps us know where it's going to get stapled. If you want to do your scratch work on the back for your practice buddy, that would be a good idea, because we don't just start inputting numbers in the practice buddy without working out the problems. Don't forget, that estimate might save you a headache. I'm thinking about number 12 and how I almost got that one wrong. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great day, and I'll see you later.